What is going on, people? Welcome back. It's your boy Minaz. In today's episode, I got a very special guest for you guys. She goes by the name of Bushra Mussa. Now, Bushra is one of my students who's finished Quantum Leap back in December 2020. 6 months later, and we are finally here to make you guys a testimonial. And we finally managed to get the right time to make it happen. So, Bushra, I want to thank you for taking time to make this happen. And guys, if you have been on the fence and thinking about joining Quantum Leap after you watch this episode, you would truly be certain of making a decision for yourself. So before we begin, I want to remind you to take a deep breath in with me right now. And a deep breath out. I wanted to ask you, like, what has life been like after you kind of like finished the program?
Um, Different for sure. And different in a way that like I learned a lot from the program and from you. So it's like now I know all of that. I can't go back. Even if I want to, I can't go back. And sometimes that's frustrating as well because I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, different in that sense that I've like been able to take steps that I never thought I'd be able to take, or I'd be more open to things or more open to like pushing myself out my comfort zone. And yeah, so it's been good different. Also
Alhamdulillah. I think,
scary different as well.
why would you say it's scary?
Um, because anything that's like out your comfort zone is scary, you're testing your boundaries, you're testing your limits. So there's
Yeah.
always going to be that fear, that anxiety that kind of comes up every time.
Definitely. I think if you could tell us about like your experience through the challenges, I think I want to kind of hear about that. It's like
Okay,
because a lot of people know they see people doing the challenges, and it's like they're curious as to what it's like for someone to actually do it. So
yeah. Like the thing is, before I like went into the program, I knew like they were going to be like I knew what some of the challenges were. Like I knew that they were going to be like they were going to test me a lot. The first one, you made us go right in the deep end. Lying down in public. I can't believe I even did that, even to this day. um, but and the thing is, like with that one, I don't feel like I didn't know what to expect from it, but like I feel like it. And when you kind of see it from an outside perspective, people probably be like, okay, like, why are you going to do that? Like, how is it going to benefit you? Like, what's the value in it? But it actually has such a massive impact in every other aspect of your life. Like, if you can do that, you can do anything. And that's something you actually always said. Um, and the thing, yeah, I just never ever thought I'd go like where I even did it was also very, very public. Maybe lockdown helped a little bit because there wasn't as many people, but
I mean,
like I
right
had
now it's like packed.
yeah, it is. But the thing is, I think as much as it'd be scary to do it again, I think I'd still be able to do it again.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same thing. It's just
Yeah,
it's not. It doesn't really matter even if there's one or 100 people. Like
yeah,
if anything, when there's more people, it's easier to fade in to the noise.
yeah, yeah,
Whereas like
yeah.
few people, everyone's gonna watch someone doing something weird.
Yeah, exactly. There's always someone out there doing something weird or like, in public. Like like they see it and then they just move on. Like you're not gonna see them
Yeah,
again. So
yeah. Like no
yeah,
one's gonna care. No one's gonna care. I guess I
exactly.
wanted to ask you like, how does it impact you in other areas? Because I know one of the biggest things the first week is like understanding the mind, how the
Hmm.
mind will hold you back in a
Yeah.
moment like that. And I want to know like what you mean by that when you say it's gonna affect you in every other area.
I feel like in that moment, like naturally, like we tend to always overthink, you know, and sometimes we will hesitate to do things like, and there may be like amazing things that we want to do that we hesitate, or it may be things that not like so much. So I feel like in that moment, like I knew that my thoughts were gonna get in the way. But and even like before, like I took a recording, and even before I actually did it, I was just standing on the edge with my friends. I'm like, should I do it? Should I not? Should I do it? I was like letting my thoughts like getting the best of me, but I was like, nope. let me just do it. So I just did it. And I feel like that happens a lot in just in genuinely, like whenever you're making any like massive decision or even any small decision, whatever it may be, like our minds and our egos will tend to kind of just overthink, and like we'll have like a million and one thoughts coming into our heads, and then we kind of like forget about the task on hand and like what we need to do and like why we're even doing it, because we let our ego get the best of us. So that was kind of like a lesson for me, because as I did it, like as I did that, I went there, I lied down in the middle of the street, and then not when you're lying down in that moment, you're not facing other people, you're just facing yourself, you know, it's just you against you. Like, and you just, you know, I remember I closed my eyes and I was like, and you just, you know, just be present. But then you're also like, while you're being present, you're also kind of like aware of all the thoughts that are going into your mind, like, you know, all these people passing, all these people looking at me, all of that. But at the end of the day, that does not matter at all. So I feel like that, like in itself, like made me kind of understand that you know, those thoughts will always come up, that, you know, that kind of discomfort will always be there, you know, that fear, like the anxiety that always comes up will always like be there whenever you're like stepping into like unknown territory or something new, or, you know, something just unfamiliar. So now when I was like trying to like take steps in achieving my goals and my dreams, like again the same process happened. I'd overthink, I'd you know, these thoughts would come into my mind, like I'd, you know, think about the worst case scenario, or, you know, like just all those kind of thoughts would just come into my mind. So, and then, but the thing is, like whatever I was trying to do, like I knew kind of like the benefit and the value and like why I wanted to do it. So it was a case of, you know, trying to just kind of break down those kind of self limitations that, you know, kind of shut that ego down and just to go for it. Yeah, but like I think the biggest lesson was the fact that, you know, like it's just you against you at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's crazy because that's the goal here, because people think it's like something to do with everyone else that's there. It has nothing to do with them. In
Exactly.
fact, they will provoke your deepest fear, which is you think it's about them, and then you get up and you realize you don't care about anyone that's there.
Yeah.
Right? And that freedom is like, it applies to every area of your life. Like where I'm at right now, it's like where I was a couple of years ago. It was, I would have thought it was impossible. But even when I get to this stage, it's the same thing. Like what we just spoke about, I have to apply that again and again and again. Like it's never, because right now it's like where you are. If you look back a year ago to who you are now, you would have loved to be this person who can see things this way and like, you know, have that courage. 5 years down the road, you look back at this moment and you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm here. But even then, when you get to that stage, you have new problems, new limitations. Like I actually made a video about this today, and I was like, when you get there, even then, there is like a new set of challenges will come up, and you have to apply the same principle again of how the mind works and stepping out of that, because you can create a new limitation there. And this is what, so thank you for that. I think you explained that perfectly well. And I kind of wanted to go into the next one, which was like the next challenge. And as we go through it, we kind of like speak about your experiences and what you've learned about yourself. I think that was my intention with this. So like the next challenge was playing with tension, if you remember, where you have to go into a shop and get something for free, right? Talk us through it. What was your experience?
So with this one, like we had to ask for something for free. So I went into like a store and asked for a water bottle for free, you know. And the thing is, I don't like ask, not like I don't like, maybe now I don't mind as much, but it's not something you usually do, just ask for something for free, especially somewhere where like if it's at a shop or where something you could like buy or like you can afford, like, you know, it's not something you do usually. So it was so like uncomfortable. And again, like before I entered the shop, like I was walking like towards, it's just a shop near my house. I was walking towards it and I was like, I can't stop anywhere. I can't hesitate. Let me just go in and do it, because I know if I stop and like allow myself time to hesitate or time to think, I'm just gonna like wave it around and it's probably not gonna happen, you know. And people will probably be thinking I'm weird, just standing on the side, just like wandering around. So I just went straight into the store and got a water bottle and then asked, oh, can I get this for free? And I know you said like the aim was for them to say no, right? He did say no at the end, and because he wasn't the manager, so he couldn't, which is understandable. But like I did kind of try push it, like made up an excuse,
Yeah.
whatever the excuse it was, just made up anything, and just try to kind of push it, because the thing is I didn't want to give up straight away, because I could easily just be like, like if someone says no, okay, cool, I could, that doesn't matter, just move on. And that's how I usually just do things, like it's just leave it as it is. They said no, accept it. But I asked like I think like maybe like 3 times, and then they said no. I was like, okay, that's fine, no worries. Put it back, just walked out the store like nothing ever happened. So yeah, I was really playing with tension there, like for definite. I feel like that taught me that when I think about it, it's just so like it's like I would have never ever done that ever again. Just like the first one, I would have never ever done that again. But again, you're just the aim of it to kind of play with that tension, see like the feelings that kind of come up, and when I did it, like, and I walked out, it was like, okay, I did it. Like, I did it. That's it. Like, it was nothing. Sometimes you make things seem as bigger than it actually is. Like we escalate, we just make it massive, and it really isn't. It really isn't. And again, that there's a lesson in that in itself. Is like I learned, okay, like sometimes you don't ask, you don't get, but then also
Exactly.
our minds are always going to make things bigger than how they are. So just like do what like you need to do and just kind of keep it going, because that tension will like always be there. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for that explanation. I think, and is something that all the students are doing now. Now, currently, they have to do that 5 times. So, whereas I
5
maybe do
times
it
you've
once.
increased it. Oh my
Because
goodness.
it's like it gets fun, you know. Because when you do the first
Yeah,
time, it's scary. Second time, somewhat scary,
yeah,
and by the fifth
yeah,
time, they're getting it for free.
yeah.
They're
And then
getting it
it
for
doesn't
free
it
because
doesn't like it's not like it's not that hard for you to ask then by that time. It's like, okay, I'm gonna ask,
yeah,
like whatever. If it's a no, it's a no. If it's a yes, it's a yes. Like is that
definitely.
asking that's important, not even the
Yeah,
result.
yeah. The results doesn't matter. It's just that you were willing to communicate through that moment where you felt afraid that they're gonna say no. And I think
Mm.
this applies to what we moved on in the next week, which was the letter challenge. Now,
Yeah.
this is where we go deep, guys.
Oh, this was a
I want to
hard
know.
one.
I want to know. I mean, you take the lead here. I think I want to hear your experience. What was your
Um,
immediate thoughts when I told you this is what you're gonna do?
I think this was the most difficult one out of all the others. As many of the other students, this was like the most difficult one, because, like the other ones, you're facing strangers, people that you don't know. But then now with this one, you're facing the people that are like close to you, like in the same household as you, if they are. But so it was like a massive a massive thing like for me. I feel like, but the thing is, when I did it, I remember I didn't do it in that week. I perhaps maybe I was delaying it, probably like subconsciously I was delaying it. I probably didn't want to do it. And I think I did it like the following week, or I was somewhat busy. I can't exactly remember. But when I like did it, like yeah, I remember like, so I wrote a letter to my mom and my sister, and I remember when I tried to write it at first, I was like, I can't do it. Left it. I was like, okay, I'll do it another day. And I tried again. I was like, nope, I couldn't do it. Like I felt I couldn't, like, because one, I knew that one, I need time to just be able to focus and just do this, but then also I know that it's gonna be very like emotionally draining, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Oh,
so I remember I did it the third time. So I wrote, you know, like a letter, you know, wrote everything that like wrote like everything that I wanted to write to kind of let go of everything um that I've always somewhat like held onto, even though if I didn't think I was holding onto it, just kind of let that out more as you said, it was more for me, for like me expressing myself, not really for the other person. Um and I think that it when I think back at it, it is like it was very helpful in the sense that I've kind of, because you know when you do things like that, you're worried about the other person's reaction, and you know, and of
yeah,
course like that's what I was like scared of, the other
yeah,
person's reaction and how they're going to respond to this. You know, like I'm being like brutally honest, like not harsh, but I'm just really being brutally honest here. um in the most nicest way as possible, but I'm still scared of their reaction, you know. um so when I like did it, and like now when I look back at it, I know that it was actually just me letting go of all of it. I think that like it has helped me a lot in that sense. Like I I've known like that I've always used to hold on to a lot, even though like, you know, I've just move on from things and just let it be. Naturally as humans, we're always going to subconsciously hold onto traumas, or onto, you know, just like incidents or events from the past, from childhood, whatever it may be. So like I learned that by me doing that, I just was able to kind of just express how I felt. They see it, however they respond is nothing to do with, it's nothing to do with me. As long as
mhm,
I'm being as honest, as truthful to myself, and you know, I let it all out in that moment, then I'll be happy. Um, and it was a challenge. It was
yeah.
definitely a challenge. Um, but I don't regret it. I actually am happy that you made me do that, as hard as it was.
You see, the thing is, it goes back into week 2 when we did the shot playing with tension, because this is ultimately what I was simply preparing you for that week.
Yeah.
I was just preparing you for what was gonna happen, because it's like the lying down challenge was about you lying down in emotions. So after you gave that letter in, you would be going through a world of emotions, which you did, and I simply needed you to lie down in it and observe the mind. And then
Mm.
the week 2 was about playing with tension, which was about expecting nothing, but at the same time asking for what you want, right?
Yep.
So the same thing, you did the letter challenge, you expect nothing, but ask for what you want. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was something that regardless of the outcome, you could have told me we had a fist fight, I would be like, perfect. Of course, as long as you don't get hurt, right? But it was
You know
like,
what? That would have not even happened because I'm not a physical person anyway. So.
but it's like the intention was you to go in the dark, right?
Yes.
I don't know what's there. You don't even know what's there. But we needed you to go there, because again, like this goes back to the first thing we spoke about, like the lying down challenge. We perceive everyone else to be the reason why we're scared of doing that. But there's
Mm-hmm.
actually something else that comes up in that moment. So it's like that same situation. You go speaking to your own parents or the people that you struggle to speak to the most. It's like you and you again, because it's not
Yeah,
really anything to do with them at the end
it
of it,
is.
right? Because I've worked with people whose parents were no longer here, and guess what? I had to make them go to the grave, right? Because
Mm.
that's the thing. It's like even then, they would see that the person's physically no longer here, yet they're struggling to speak or let it out, right? And I feel like that's something you can connect to.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so it's like the week after that, I think I remember this letter that you spoke to me about, which I think the week after, like I think that was the week after that you shared it with me, um, and I don't know if you're comfortable sharing your story, but how do you feel about it?
I don't mind.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, I
that's
don't mind
good.
sharing it.
I think I want you to know, like this, this is a very safe space in terms of like people who
Mm-hmm.
come to listen to this. They're gonna be expecting uh they're people like that themselves, so they would understand. So I guess one of the greatest challenges that you went through as a family was that, I mean, I feel like you should tell us.
You can continue. I can just add on.
Okay, so you were on a holiday
Mhm.
with your family, and you guys go into an accident, right? So
Yeah.
someone, I don't know if you need to explain how it
So,
happened,
okay, I'll explain how it happened.
but I'll
So,
let you take the lead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were on holiday, and it was like, Ramadan time. Actually, like it happened on Eid day, and so me and my family, like we were just, walking back to our hotel, um, yeah, as I said, on holiday, and like a car hit us. So like this massive car was like speeding. That wasn't. It was going at like it was going really fast, but that wasn't the reason that it happened. Like because he wasn't speeding, but um, so he hit all of us, and like because where we were, like there weren't any pavements, so we were just walking like alongside, like on the edge, like behind one after each other, like behind each other. And so it hit my father, my youngest brother, who was 7 at the time. They were at the front, and unfortunately they passed away because of it. And then my sister and my brother, who were like severely injured, and me and my mom were at the back. So we weren't like physically injured. So yeah, like that's like what happened. So yeah.
Yeah, I think thank you for sharing that. I think um that kind of changed your whole family, right? From that
100%.
moment, right? I mean, it's not even a question, but I want to know, like, that's what kind of like helped you, like you were struggling to communicate how you felt with your family about everything that happened, and it's almost like something that you don't really speak about, right? Like, because everyone's got their own way of how they dealt with it, and it's something big for anyone to go through, you know. Um, and yeah, that's where our next week kind of like led into that chapter where it's like you were expressing that pain to yourself first and foremost, and then that's when you kind of like told me more about it, and it was like something that you had to like speak about because it was weighing heavy inside of you, right? And if you go back to the beginning of the whole thing, it was about you actually, it was you and you. So we had to kind of like get to the root of what is really there and what drives you, because it's like if you want to really unlock your true power, we need to see what's laying within, right? So I mean, I want you to kind of like tell everyone the difference between you actually owning what happened rather than that's being a story where it's like people don't want to talk about it, right? It's a scary thing. Like, how does it feel for you to even share this right now?
um I feel like I feel like this is a big step for me, because I've never been the type to kind of like, with like, I'm just generally like a private person anyway. So when it comes to this stuff, like I've never really been open about it. So like, like I'm grateful that I'm on here like with you, and being able to speak about it. Um I like probably like a few years ago, I probably would have not, like, thing is like I would have probably not been able to speak about it. But the thing is, I feel like I can, but I just won't. I'll be somewhat emotionally detached from it.
Of
So like
course.
I don't have a problem like speaking about it. If it comes up, I won't bring it up. But like it would just be, this happened. I feel like it's taken a very long time for me to accept that, like, that happened, but it's not my story. For a long time, I feel like, how, like, of course everyone has their own struggles. Everyone has, trauma that they go through. And like when people like say, oh, like, what's your story, like, I always, like, I never used to like that question. Like, when people say, what's your story, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to say my story is? Like, people kind of like, am I supposed to talk about this tragic story that happened, like this tragic event that happened, or am I supposed to talk about, like, I'm just a normal girl, just going to school, just living life, like I don't have much of a story. Well, that's how I used to think. I feel like now I don't. Now, like, it's it, for me, it's not like, it doesn't define who I am. I feel like then that's what I used to think when people would say, oh, what's your story like? Like, oh, does that define me? But I know it doesn't now. Like for me, it's now a case. I see it in a sense that, okay, this is what happened. It's definitely changed who I am, and like it's made me who I am today, and I'm grateful for that. So and like for me to even get to this point where I'm able to share it is like, perhaps maybe this might, I guess, inspire someone, motivate someone, or however help someone in any way or form. Um, but yeah, I feel like it's definitely been a journey trying to like accept it as and just own it as, as an event in your life that has had like a massive contribution to who you are now, but not as an event that has defined you, you know?
Yeah. I guess it's a mixture in both, right? Like, because it's like that could give you a drive, that moment that it creates some, it's happened for a reason, right? Because say for you to witness that as a even third person, it's like for us to even hear that, it impacts every single person just listening, right? So it serves a massive purpose in your life, like as in the way it influences you to make decisions and the way you show up for yourself. And I remember you read a letter that your dad wrote to you, right? And it was amazing, like, because it was like he was like that person in your life, right, that would like give you hope to dream a little bit, right? Like, which is rare nowadays with our family, with our dads and moms. It's like that's the last thing they want to do is dream. They want you to be in reality and like be afraid and walk along life. It's like knowing, like being prepared for the worst. But it was like, if you can kind of like tell us how that letter, like, I don't know if when was the last time you read that, but I don't think I'll ever forget, like, when you shared that with me. I think I was reading that, I was just like, this is you. It's like your dad, you're now embodying his spirit, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was not a letter to me, but it was just like a note that he wrote in his like a diary, his journal. It's funny because I journal as well. I always tend to write notes, whether it's on my phone or in a book. So okay.
So you said
About
I
the
journal
notes.
as well,
Yeah.
and then that's when it just went,
Yeah.
it's froze.
Oh, okay. So yeah, like yeah, I was saying how, like it was a note, um just it wasn't like a note directed to like any of us. It was just something that he wrote, and I haven't gone back to it for a while, but whenever I do go back to it, it does motivate me and inspire me, because one, it doesn't only just do that, but I feel like it somewhat kind of, when I find things like that, like about him, it allows me to learn more about him as an individual, not as how I knew him as a dad or as a father, but more as just, him as a man, and how his mindset and perspective like was. And I think that is what like touches me, because it's like, oh my days, like this is like we would have really like connected in that aspect, if I had the chance. Of course, it wasn't written, but when I do read back on it, like it was more, I don't know if I can find it right now, but it was like an inspiring and motivational note, talking about time, and being present, and like working for using your future at like using the future as like as your vision, and your past as like as something like as a lesson, and then using like now to kind of learn and grow, or something along those lines. I can't remember from the top of my head, but yeah, every time I go back to it, I absolutely love it. Yeah, it inspires me every time, because it just makes me feel like, okay, like this is how like he thought, and this is how like I'm thinking now as well. So it's like, I find some connection just in that note in itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I think that would be something that will help you along your journey whenever you feel doubtful or scared or
Yeah.
doing something that you really want to do. I think that note you would say, like, it would be perfect for you to read through in those moments, because I think along your journey that you're walking on, like you're towards a life that makes you happy, but at the same time it's like it's the journey, not the end, right? But
Hmm.
as you go through this journey, there'll be challenges. There's going to be moments where you're going to be scared. You're gonna be worried. You're gonna be afraid that maybe you're not on the right path. It's like those are the moments that you need to remind yourself why. Why am I doing this? Because if you don't have that there, it's like you will feel lost. And the funny thing is, even when everything's perfect, you still will feel lost. Like there's a
Yeah.
saying, you suffer when you don't get what you want, and you suffer when you do get what you want because you can't hold on to it forever, right? By Socrates, right?
Mm.
And um it's so crazy because it's true. It's like you can get exactly what you want, and then the fear is just as strong as where you were or what you had when you didn't have the thing that you thought you needed.
Mm.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think everyone's probably wondering, how did this connect to the program and what we've done? And I guess that's where the last 2 weeks make sense, because this is when we talk about creating, right? Now we went all the way down back to the foundation of who
Mm.
you were. And now it's like, okay, now what do we do? Build out this, right? So if you can kind of share that, because I want you to kind of like talk about that leap that you took in terms of your podcast channel, and how did that
Um,
impact you, say, from that moment till today, like in terms of you going after what you want.
I feel like it's definitely built my like courage. I feel like that was like one of the main kind of like things like I struggled with, like me actually putting things into action. I think I remember that's what I came like
Hmm.
into the program for, because like since a young age I've always been someone who like dreams, like has all like dreamt really big, has like massive dreams and so many things I want to achieve and all of that. But I got to a point where I was just tired of myself. I was like, I've had enough. Like I just want to start something, do something, actually feel like I'm going like somewhere with my goals. So like doing all of that in the beginning of the program really helped me kind of get to a point where, okay, like it built my courage to be able to take that step. As much as there was a lot of hesitation, a lot of like uh because doing a podcast was one of my kind of like goals I've always like wanted to do. And neither did I think I was going to do it at that point either. I thought, okay, I'll probably do it like a couple of years down, and when I get to a certain point, which we naturally always say and do as people. Um, but you like pushing me, kind of like taking that first step, just releasing releasing that first episode, like legit like made a massive difference in like in all the steps that was coming after that, because it was taking that leap. Because the thing is like I a lot of things, like I remember actually a lot of I was it took me a while to even do that first episode, I remember, because I was like, oh, I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. I haven't done it yet. And like, and then he told me about, like how we self-sabotage ourselves and everything. I related to that like a lot. And I realized that is basically what I've been doing for most of my life. Self-sabotaging myself, like, kind of just always kind of not backing out, but kind of just finding a way out, but I'm not going through with what I want to do. So taking that first step has like made like a big difference, because now even though right now it's on pause, it's it's like I'm still going to do it. Like I know it's gonna happen. Like inshallah, with the will of Allah, I know it's gonna happen.
Sure.
But like it's I've already done a couple. It's still something I want to do. Like my why for it is strong enough to keep me going. Um, but I think that was like a massive lesson for me. Like learning how I just always like self-sabotage myself, or and then I feel like also because of that, there's been times as well where I wish there's been times where, when like your old realities just kind of comes through, like I don't want to do this anymore, I want to go back to it, it wasn't out, or I didn't have anything out there, because now it's out there, it's keeping me accountable, like, I have to stick by my word, I have to do it, this is like what I want to do, so I have to go do it. So I feel like that has itself, just doing that has like been so valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's like once it's out there, you've opened the door. There's no
Yeah,
closing
I
it.
can't go back now. And it's annoying though sometimes, because like at times I want to, like, I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to. But then I know deep down I can't go back. Even as much as I try, I can't go backwards. As I can't
Mm.
go back to the time when it wasn't released, or when I didn't take these steps. Um, it won't happen, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's just that taking that one step. And another thing as well is, just taking that first step and then just allowing the rest to follow.
Yeah.
That's another
Yeah.
lesson that I also like really learned and like have held on to. Because naturally we overthink, and I would be like always somewhat like planning, like, oh, like what I want to do. And so it's like, oh, like this episode and that episode and this episode, and just kind of find that balance, allowing it just to kind of just it be a bit more free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think because it's like you have to understand there's no rules here.
Yeah.
The only rules you are making is your own. And the problem is the mind. If you go back to the first challenge, the rules were what would people think? Maybe I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Everything to keep you away from the challenge. Whereas you have to understand, I am where I am because you have to get to a stage where you're sick and tired of waiting. You have to just fail forward, basically.
That's what I did.
You have to tell yourself, if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna move forward whilst I do it. Because or I sit here and I don't do nothing anyway. So you have to get to a stage where it's like the most successful people are the ones that failed a lot, like a lot. But no one really talks about those things. Everyone talks about what they created. But if you go back to their story, you'll see them thousands of times that they failed along the way.
Yeah. And I think,
And like you have to basically get to a stage where you're willing to fail again and again
yeah,
with every single episode.
I
It's
think
like
that's
every single
what got
episode.
me. Yeah. And I think that's what got me to this point of coming to the program, because, like it was so long where, I just like, I want to do something, but it won't go through. I just like kept on kind of failing, where to a point, as you said, like you get tired of yourself. You're like, nope, I need to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
this. I need to do this.
yeah. I've got a lot of people that message me and it's like they tell me they want to join the program and it's like, but they're scared, they're scared of something. And I'm just like, you're not ready though. Because if you was, you would be like, I'm okay, let's do it. The thing is, it's like our current reality is serving us one way or another, right? If you told me, Minaz, I don't need to do the challenge, the lying down challenge, or I couldn't do it, or for example the podcast. If you say, I have no ideas, Minaz, that's why I can't do it. That excuse, that story of I don't have any ideas becomes the very reason for why you don't move forward. But you might think that's a valid reason. I need ideas, otherwise there's nothing to make. But little do you know, your own subconscious mind now has found a way to keep you exactly where you need to be, to keep you safe, to keep you comfortable. So you never have ideas. That's your identity now, is I'm Bushra who has a podcast channel, but I don't have ideas. That has become your identity. So now you need to
Mm,
break this identity. Go to the next one. Now you can be, I'm Bushra I make videos, podcasts regardless of the outcome. And then the story changes again. You're like, okay, I'm making a lot of podcasts, but I want to direct it towards something now. That's when clarity will come. It's like you have to trust that this it's like this the quote by Martin Luther King, right? You don't need to see the whole staircase, just take the first step. Or most people were waiting for all the steps to uncover till we actually take the first one. But the crazy thing is, you could take the 100th step and you still are walking towards the dark. Continuously, it's never gonna be certainty. There's never gonna be clarity on your journey, never. But you might feel like you have some sense of clarity, but only to come to a stage where you realize it was never there anyway. I got to where I am because I had no idea what I was doing anyway. But everyone that sees me from the outside, they're like, oh my God, Miraz. Like, wow, mashallah. And I'm just like, you have no idea what this takes.
If you only knew.
You have zero idea what this takes.
It takes a lot out of us.
Yeah, because you have to be brave, like so brave. And imagine, like, I'm at a stage now where my brother is working for me. So
Amazing.
if I fail, not only do I fail, he goes down with me, right? But obviously he can pick things back up, get a job or something to support himself. But it's like, for me, the responsibilities get bigger and bigger and bigger. So it's like you're sailing on a boat and you know the direction, you know where you want to head towards, you have an idea, but you have zero knowledge on how that's going to unfold. Like zero. But you have to have faith in this moment. This is where faith is everything. This is why when we ended that 6 weeks, it was about you get into a stage where you realize, I have to just be good with fear. It doesn't matter if I know or if I don't know.
It'll always be there. It'll always be there.
Yeah.
Even as things get bigger and it gets like it gets more scarier, like the fear will only get bigger as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like imagine your dream was supporting your home, your family. Like you have now more reasons for why this has to keep going. So right now it's like we don't want the fear to be there to even take the first step. But imagine on that step where everything is relying on it. You and now have to be more courageous than you've ever been. And you're gonna have days where you're like, oh my God, a normal life would be perfect. Like I don't have to do none of this. No fear. I'm retired, a pension waiting for me. I have this, I have that. You don't get any of that when you have your own business. You don't get nothing. If you don't show up, it all goes downhill. If you don't show up, your people that work for you don't care. They're getting paid either way. They're not gonna be like, hey, yeah, Bushra's not showing up today. Why not? Unless they're family, they might care. But if they're like your people who work for you, they got the day off. Bushra's not feeling great. She ain't gonna come to. She ain't gonna tell us what to do today. You can't do that then. Yeah. So you're only getting to a stage where you're preparing yourself for the life that you're asking for.
Honestly, yep.
Which is pressure. Which is if I tell you right now, Bushra, I'm gonna take you out. I'm gonna put you there, right here, right now. You have a company, you have a bakery, for example. I know that's your dream, and you had the staff, this was paying for everything at home. You would run away from it.
I wouldn't be ready for it. As much as it sounds amazing. Like honestly speaking, like no one would be ready for what they really want. Yeah,
because it's like we want to be married, we want to have children, inshallah. If I gave that to you like that, with who you currently are today, it's gonna destroy you, because it's like you were not prepared for that. So it's like step by step by step, you prepare for it.
You have to right? Where we are, before we get there. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like change the story. Again, I go back to what the episode I made today is like, it's time to change the story again. What are you holding back on? What are you afraid of? Go there, because that's where excitement will meet you, where life will meet you again. If you feel like you're waiting on something, it's behind the fear. What you're afraid of, do it. Even if you don't even know if this is it, go and do it. Fail forward.
Yeah.
Right? But then don't forget the aspects of sitting with tension, communicating through tension. So when you're going through a massive shift, you're able to communicate with your family members, so they don't think, you're in depressed, you're going through depression, or like there's something wrong with you. You're actually actively, because as you push through towards your dreams, the fear that arises will be intense, and you have to lie down with it. Like that's the whole point of the first challenge. You have to be home and be present, be still, and watch the mind, because the mind will panic in this moment and say, this is not going to work. Maybe I should go back to that normal job. That's easier. Like, you know, I want to leave you with one thing is, I know you are trying to seek direction. You know, you're constantly going to want to be figuring it out. Like, where's it leading to? Where's this all going? Who am I going to become? I still don't know. I have zero idea, Bushra. I just know it was written for me to find out. But I know one thing, if I look back at who I was 5 years ago and I told him, you'll be here today, I'm going to be like, I wouldn't even believe myself. But if I went back there and I tried to tell him how he needs to do it, I wouldn't have gotten here. But it's like, you have to trust that you are being guided even when you make mistakes.
Trusting God.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest like thing in itself. Like, we don't like trust enough that, you know, we're like everything that, like, where we are now, you know, where is leading us to somewhere bigger, somewhere better. And we have to have that faith regardless in everything that we do. Because without that, then, you know, we won't be getting anywhere.
And the thing is, through this whole program, I want to ask you, it's like, what has that done for the way you would say navigate? Because I'm curious to know as well. It's like, for me, it's like, my intention was to kind of make you realize you can dream, and dream so big that it scares you, but don't even be afraid to go after it, because the day you do, you'll never regret it. Even if when death comes, at least you can say, I still showed up for myself, you know? And I'll leave something behind for whoever wants to see that, right? For my family, inshallah, children one day. And it's like, they will see that. They will have that. And this is, I think, the most beautiful thing. Like, for example, the no, right? It's like, that's going to impact you for the rest of your life. So imagine the little moments that you might record today that will be left behind for someone. That is a miracle itself.
It is.
Go on. So I want to know, like, whoever, say someone's watching this and they want to get into the program, they're sick and tired of waiting for change. What would you say to them?
What I would say to them, I would say that for you to change, you know, everything, your environment, your surroundings, you know, to change where you are, you have to first change yourself. You have to look within, you have to, you know, build up that courage, because, like, you know, it's that change is not going to happen. Like, it won't happen if you're still where you are, or like who you are. You know, if you don't like build up that courage, or, you know, it won't, your dreams won't come true. Like, it's definitely like it can happen. It will happen, inshallah. All your dreams will happen.
Yeah.
But you also need to push yourself to be able to, you know, overcome that fear. And I feel like with this program, it's definitely like, at the end of the day, you know, our biggest enemy is ourselves. And I think that was my struggle, because like, it was, you know, even with all the challenges you're facing yourself, it's all about you. At the end of the day, it's all about you. It's not about anything else, not about the people. It's all about you. So, you know, like, this program really helped me kind of face those challenges that I had, like I personally had, and, you know, face those self-limitations, and face all those thoughts that would just kind of take over. And I feel like, you know, it's made me less fearful and more fearless. I feel like that's what it's done. So I feel like now, like, and the thing is, like, now you will learn a lot. So now I know that the fear will always be there. You know, the challenges will always be there. It will be the same ones, but it will come in different forms, you know, in different intensities, you know. But so that shouldn't stop you from going forward, you know. I feel like that is like, just knowing that that's always going to be there. is now like helping me just keep going, because I can't get rid of it, can I?
Yeah.
So I might as well just face it and go through it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I was listening to this podcast the other day, and they were saying, if we were no longer afraid, what is life about after that? It's like, what you would do everything, and then what? Like, if you was no longer afraid, you would do everything, and then what would you do then? It's like, humans, we need that. It's like that wouldn't make sense. Our journey wouldn't make sense without it. Like the fear. And ultimately, as much as I love everything we spoke about, it's like getting to a stage where you have so much faith that even when you fail, it's like you realize that I needed to fail, right? Even in death, that is written for me. Like, it was meant to be. And the beauty of this is, like, you get to a stage where you're no longer attached to an outcome, like, which we've been doing through the beginning. It's like you do all of this towards your dreams, but even then, you don't care about the outcome, because when you get there, it was never about the outcome. It was about what you did to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? And this is the paradox of life, you can say, because I really, I'm very faithful now, alhamdulillah, and you kind of seen that transformation take place, right? And
Sure.
thank you. And it's like, I had to get to that stage because it's like, this is a never-ending chase. But how do we make the most out of it? Like, why is it that I'm on this movement, but what is the intention at the end of it, right? Because a lot of people, when they get into faith, they say deen over dunya, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's like, what if it's a mixture? Because Allah wouldn't put you here just to say, I'm going to wait till the end.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to live my best life after. That's the whole mindset that it creates so much suffering in this world in the first place. Is like, once I get there, then I'm going to be happy. Right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So yeah, I
definitely.
truly believe it's like we have a responsibility to show up and create a beautiful life for ourselves, and then try to serve others as much as we possibly can. And sometimes serving does not mean just doing it with money, but like just your energy is service.
Your
Right?
presence, what you put out to the world is, you know, your purpose. And we
Yeah.
all have a purpose at the end of the day, every and we won't like, death is guaranteed for all of us, but we all have a purpose, like in this life. So we have to just strive to be like the best versions of ourselves, so we can fulfill that purpose. And even if I like, actually, even if I relate back to the incident that happened in my family, right? So like, you know how I said, okay, so all the remain, like everyone else from my family, like we're like injured, like massively, right? And for me, this is a miracle, and I never even realized this until years after. And sometimes, you know, it's just like things happen at its right timing, you also start to realize things at its right timing, So sorry, the sun. um
Don't worry.
and
It's
I feel
okay.
like with so I in that incident, actually, I was like thrown underneath a car, right? I was thrown underneath a car, and I came out with zero injuries. I came out with a few like scratches, and like that for me, when and I never, as I said, I never thought that was a miracle in that moment, or like a few years after, until I realized, like, I could have easily gone that day. Like that could have easily been my last day, but it wasn't meant for me. It wasn't written for me. Clearly, because I still have a purpose to fulfill. I still have something to do that I do not know of. Only God kind of just, trust that it. Um, and I feel like that, like in itself, like just like taught me as well, like, we all have like a purpose, and we need to constantly be able, like, to, as I said, like better ourselves and kind of work towards achieving whatever we need to achieve, or like following our hearts and trusting God. I don't know, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a powerful story, And I think this is the one thing that I feel like your purpose is something that your pain is your power. So it's like whatever you've gone through is your message somehow. And it's like figuring out how you can share that with the world, because I would love to hear your perspective on the things that you're going through, because I guess you have to realize like you have power in terms of just your message, what you've gone through. And that's so powerful what you've said, in terms of like we all have a purpose. And the crazy thing is most people like, first thing I have friends who would be like, yeah, but I don't know. You don't know what that is. I don't know what that is.
Because we will never know. That's the thing. Like,
I still
actually
don't
never
know.
know. Like, we will never ever like be able to comprehend what our purpose could be. We just have to follow where our heart takes us, because clearly, like everything that we have an interest in, everything that we're good at, everything that we're all like pursuing is related to our purpose at the end of the day. So we have to kind of just keep doing that, keep working in that, whatever it is, developing their skills, or like whatever it is. So yeah, you will never know.
We never know. Like I still don't know, and I'm just like, what are you talking about? When they tell me that, I'm just like, I don't have a clue what I'm doing half the time. I just know what the next step is. I know what the next step is, and people think the bigger it gets, the more clarity you will have. No, the bigger it gets, the scarier it gets in terms of what steps should I take? Am I making a mistake?
Sure.
But honestly, I want to thank you for being here. And I guess if you could look back at Bushra, who was like making the decision to take that leap into this program, what would you say to her?
I'll say I'm proud, honestly. I feel like since like that day, like I feel like I've come far, and I'm happy about it, you know what I mean? Because I feel like I'm making progress, like I'm moving forward. I'm not like stuck, or I'm not like, do you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm moving forward, and I'm working and like doing whatever I want to do, or or like I'll start working on it. But yeah, I would definitely say like I'm proud. I'm proud of you. And
Alhamdulillah.
just to keep going, honestly, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I think I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Bushra.
I appreciate it, honestly. Like I'm grateful to be on here and to have even just been part of like program. Like, we all have, everyone comes, like everyone who comes into life is like there to teach you something, whether like it's mainly about yourself or whatever else it's about. So I feel like you've taught me a lot. Yeah, and I'm really grateful, and I'll keep those lessons definitely for life.
Yeah, for life, I think. And it's like, I don't think for me, it's just Allah has put me here to do what I feel like I was meant to be doing. And it was coming through me, like everything I've kind of gone through, vice versa. Like you be someone you probably helping right now, you are helping them, by them listening to your story. So it's like, it's a beautiful journey, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
And I want to thank you for being here, honestly, like taking time for this. And I know like honestly, we had to like make things work to make this happen.
But yeah. No, honestly, thank you. I appreciate it a lot.
Okay, cool. So where can people find you? Tell us about this podcast, chat.
Okay, so the podcast is called Let's Talk Health. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, Google Play.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll come up, hopefully. And then
the show notes. I'll tag it in the show notes below.
Yeah, that's the podcast. Yeah, and then my Instagram is called Bushra Mussa_. So you can just find me on there. Yeah, there'll be a link. I mean, there'll be an app on top of the video. So yeah, I want to thank you for being here, Bushra, and yeah, I will keep you updated on when this is going out. And for anyone that's listening,
Yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
No worries. Take care.
Okay, you too, Assalamualaikum.